welcome once again to the video. In this one, I shall be continuing my look at every race in the 2024 Formula One World Championship. We're up to round 22 out of 24, and this is just a simple look by me, a long-term fan of the sport for more than 40 years actually. I've been watching every race. My usual routine is to list the finishing order of the 20 drivers, and then the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship, and then the rundown of the Constructors' Championship. And then I do some comments about the race afterwards, what I thought about it. Not a detailed review of the race, just things on my mind, as if I was, talking to friends. Just casually chatting about it rather than reporting lap by lap what happened in the race. Okay, so this was round number 22. Las Vegas. Now, as you can see, I'm joined by George Russell, spoiler alert, being the winner of this race. Is that in focus? I'd like to think so. And this is George Russell's 2022 W13, also known as the Porpoise. I didn't realise that that between us, my son and I had a George Russell car, but we do, so that's good. So let's put George back over there. Where should we put him so nicely in shot? I think that'll do like that. Okay, so let's dive in and do the rundowns. Okay, so I need to make sure this is in focus as well, but I'll write down a few before I do that. Russell, or maybe I'll try it now, so just bear with me a moment while I get this in focus. There you go. Second. Sainz, Leclerc, Bottas, Albon, and Gasly. Okay. So now, Drivers' Championship. Verstappen, who is champion now, of course. 403. Norris 340. Third, Leclerc 319. Fourth, Piastri 268. Let's make sure that's in focus. Come on. Okay, good. Fifth is Sainz 259. Sixth, Russell 217. Seventh is Hamilton 208. Perez 152. Alonso best of the rest 62. Hulkenberg 35. Okay, so Russell's in the way a little bit there, but let's do the constructors. McLaren 608. Ferrari 584. Redbull 555. Mercedes 425. Fifth, Aston Martin 86. Haas 50. Alpine 49. RB 46. Williams 17. Sauber 0. Okay. So there you have it, and there it is. Let's make sure that's in focus. Okay, so fastest lap. Another tactical fastest lap, which is why I'm very happy to see the end of points being awarded for fastest laps from next year, because I'm fed up with drivers and teams strategically getting fastest laps on fresh soft tyres at the end of a race, which then gives the falsehood of thinking that driver was basically the fastest during the race, but no, he wasn't. If Bottas had put on softs for the final lap, he would have the fastest lap. If there was no point for the fastest lap, there wouldn't be motivation to do that. So then you would get more of an accurate fastest lap statistic, basically. But yes, this was Norris being brought in to record the fastest lap. Was McLaren's attempt to to take it off McLaren necessarily, because it was Hamilton that had been holding the fastest lap all day. He had like the top 10 fastest laps. That's the ridiculous thing. Hamilton was I mean, Russell, I'm sure, could have gone faster if he'd needed to. Hamilton did need to go fast, so he was recording all the fastest laps. And but who is it that gets recorded with the fastest lap after the race? Norris. Now, for all those who think I'm not impartial with my opinions, there you go. I'm criticising Norris having the fastest lap. Because history books will make people look at that and think, oh, look at that, Norris was the fastest in the race. No, he wasn't. The Mercedes were, in particular Hamilton, because he had to go fast. It was just because Norris nipped in there to take that fastest lap so that McLaren could get a point closer or further away from Red Bull over here. Nothing to do with taking it off Mercedes. They just wanted to score that point ahead of Ferrari. It's very frustrating, but we've only got 2 more races of this nonsense with the point for fastest lap. Yes, I know they did it in the 50s, as I've mentioned in previous videos, but back then you wouldn't have had the situation of a driver coming in on the last lap to take the point for fastest lap away and on fresh tyres. No, that wouldn't have happened back then. So so I'm glad they're getting rid of it. I know some commentators, notably Martin Brundle and I think David Croft on Sky, are going to miss it. They like having the point for fastest lap. I most definitely disagree. I think the FIA are doing a very good thing there. Okay, so I'll put a C for next to Verstappen as well, because he is now the champion, a deserved champion. This also marks the end of the silly season, which is great. Now, I know the silly season is what the media tend to term, and maybe the paddock as well, tend to term the period where drivers are jumping from one seat to another in preparation for next year. They're signing up contracts and jumping around all over the place. That's normally what's called the silly season. But what I call the silly season is towards the end of a championship, when one driver is way out in front, and yet we are constantly bombarded with statistics as to how that driver could win the championship at the next race. You know, if Verstappen, and it was the same in Vegas, but fortunately it won't be like that in the last 2 races. It will be for the Constructors' Championship, and that's fine. The Constructors' Championship is close. If a championship is close, then I have no problem with the media working out all the different parameters required for different drivers and different teams to win the championship and things like that. I don't mind. If the championship's tight, I expect those calculations. But if you've got one driver 62 points in front with about, 75 points available, don't waste our time talking about how, in this case, Verstappen can win the title if he finishes 3 points ahead of Norris. He's going to win the title regardless, even if Verstappen had not finished in Las Vegas and then also failed to finish in Qatar and also Abu Dhabi. So in other words, if he didn't score any points in the 3 remaining Grand Prix and sprint race, Norris would probably still not have caught Max, because Norris was 62 points behind with, I think, 83 remaining if you include the sprint race. And that would be very difficult for Norris to score those 63 points he would need. 63 out of 83. 63 out of 83, I believe, yeah. Not counting fastest laps, okay, 86 then. So he would have needed 63 out of a possible 86. That would still be, probably not probable, basically. It would have still been highly unlikely. So, I mean, we had this last year with about 18 races to go. They were saying, if Verstappen can finish 6th in this race and Leclerc finishes no higher than 4th and Perez finishes outside the top 8, then a fastest lap is scored by, for goodness sake. They were doing it last year when Verstappen was clearly going to win the title race long before the end of the season, and yet we're still, with a number of races to go, like, oh, Verstappen's 105 points in front. There's 107 points available, so we've worked out what Verstappen needs to do in this race to win the championship. Oh, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. The guy's going to win the championship. But if the championship's close, then they should be working out that. And that's what was a bit odd. They were focusing so much on Verstappen in this race and what had to happen for him to win the championship at this race. They weren't focusing as much. They weren't working out any statistics or parameters or anything for the constructors, even though that's super close. Of course, no one can actually, I accept that's mainly because no team could actually win the championship at this Grand Prix. But still, I'd have liked to have seen them focusing more on this. They kept coming up on the screen. They kept coming up with statistics about how the championship sat at any particular moment throughout the race. And every single one showed Verstappen as champion. Oh, look, in this scenario, Verstappen as champion. Then 5 laps later, they would show the statistic again with positions having changed. And they would say, oh, Verstappen's still, he's still due to win the championship again, you know. Of course he is. They should have been coming up with those statistics constantly on the Constructors' Championship, because that's the interesting one, you know. Yes, people are always more focused on drivers. It's only, you know, Italians and the teams that are interested in the Constructors' Championship. The Tifosi, obviously the Italian F1 fans, the Tifosi, are obviously more focused on the constructors than the drivers, but everybody else is more focused on the drivers. But you have to focus on whatever championship is close, you know. Anyway, I've ranted on too much about that. The race, certain things about the race. Right, pole position, George Russell. He hit the wall at one point during qualifying, or was it during practice? Might have been during quali 1 or quali 2. He whacked the wall. Obviously didn't do any damage. But he didn't make any mistakes. And as we found out right from day one, really, or first practice, we found out that the Mercedes were the quickest car. Yeah. They had the quickest car. Hamilton, well, he was quickest in first practice, quickest in second practice. I didn't see third practice. I'm not sure what happened there, but Hamilton would have either been first or second on the grid had he not messed up his quali. So Russell deserved to win the Grand Prix because he didn't mess up his quali. Plus, even though Hamilton was only 6 seconds or so behind Russell at the end, if Russell had to have gone quicker, he would have gone quicker. I'm sure he would have. But he knew that Hamilton, on older tyres, 6 laps older tyres, Hamilton was not going to be able to pass him, because he would use up all his tyres trying to catch him, and there would only be like 1 or 2 laps left anyway. And Russell could just speed up then. So we don't know. Had Hamilton not messed up his quali, there would have been a ding-dong battle between Russell and Hamilton throughout the race. It would have been very exciting to watch. And maybe Toto Wolff is quite happy that Hamilton messed up his quali, in hindsight, now that he's come through to second place, because at least that meant that his 2 drivers weren't fighting each other aggressively on the track. Anyway, great performance by Mercedes. A bit deflating for them, I should think, because they're thinking, well, you know, this is just a one-off race. Why were we fast? I know Toto Wolff has said after the race, well, they have said that they don't know why they were particularly fast, but then also they have given a reason. Both Toto Wolff and George Russell gave the same reason, and that is that they're faster. Well, I suppose they don't know why they're faster. They know where they are faster, but they don't know why. I think that's basically what it is, isn't it? So they know that they are faster on fast tracks in particularly cold weather. That's the main thing, cold weather. On a nice flat track with no bumps, and their car can go as close to the ground as possible. In those conditions, cold conditions like that, they're super fast, which is why they were fast at Silverstone as well. But if it's a bumpy, twisty circuit in hot weather, I think any track in hot weather, basically, then they struggle. So I suppose they do know where they are good and bad, but they don't know why specifically. They can't get a handle on it anyway. Don't move around too much, George. Stay there. Yeah, stay there, George. Stay there. But anyway, a great performance by Hamilton to come charging through the field, fastest lap after fastest lap. Fantastic racing all the way through from the very start. Also, of course, in qualifying, Williams had another big smash up. Colapinto, another big accident. God, dear, the amount of bad luck they've had. They've had 5 accidents in just the last few Grand Prix, I think. And they still got Colapinto's car into the race, only for him to finish 14th. But incredible effort getting his car into the race, and then to get no reward at all is painful. 14th place, all that effort to get the car into the race, and it doesn't score any points. But it's fantastic racing. Leclerc fighting Russell at first, and then his tyres went off. Now that was the start of some strange backwards and forwards between Leclerc and Sainz, wasn't it? Leclerc let Sainz through because Leclerc had burnt his tyres out. Then later on, in the second stint, I think, Sainz let Leclerc through because Leclerc was on faster, fresher tyres, I believe. But then Sainz then pitted before Leclerc and jumped him in the pits, undercut him. Now that seems to be, we're not 100% certain, but that seems to be the explanation as to why Leclerc was boiling with rage, saying the F word about 15 times on his radio on the cool-down lap. I've listened to his radio message or stream of messages at the end of the race, and he's not shouting. It's strange. The anger that Verstappen always relays down the radio if he doesn't win a race, you can feel the anger coming down the radio from Max, even if he's not actually swearing. You can just feel it. But with Leclerc, he was very calm. He was swearing profusely, far more than Max does. But he was saying in a very sort of calm way, as if he wasn't really angry. And he didn't seem angry after the race either. It's very strange. I don't even know why he's angry. He gave the position to Sainz early in the race. Sainz gave the position to Leclerc later in the race, and then they had their pit stops, and Sainz came out in front in the pit stops. Maybe it's because now they stopped Sainz before Leclerc, even though Leclerc was in front, didn't they, for the second pit stop? So that maybe is why Leclerc is annoyed, because that allowed Sainz to. But when Leclerc was asked, do you think the team was favouring Sainz? He said, no. It's just, and then he came out with some confusing line about it's just when things are said and not done, I find that really annoying. It's difficult because he's not talking in he's a very good speaker of English, Leclerc, but it's not his natural language. So sometimes it gets lost in translation a little bit. But I don't think anyone is outside the Ferrari team is all that sure why he's angry. Sainz certainly didn't expect it, because immediately after the race, Sainz was saying, oh yeah, Leclerc and I, we always work together it's great, you know, we respect each other, and we were swapping places as and when was needed, and everything was working. So he clearly wasn't aware that he had annoyed, or the team had annoyed Leclerc in some way. I don't really understand why Leclerc was fuming with rage, but there you go. Fuming with rage without it in the words he was saying, but as I say, he didn't actually come across angry. You couldn't feel the anger from what he was saying. It was just the words. Yeah, so that was a strange thing. Also, Sainz, of course. Why didn't Sainz get a penalty for not coming into the pits? He was right in front of Hamilton, wasn't he? Was it the second pit stop, or was it the first pit stop? I can't remember. The second one, I think. Sainz came into the pit lane and then quickly ducked back out again. And apparently, I found out after the race that all that happened is that it was treated as a track limit infringement, just one of his 3 track limit infringements, as opposed to a bang-on penalty, which is what the commentators certainly thought it would be. It seemed very dangerous. So I'm very surprised that wouldn't have been a penalty. It wouldn't have been Sainz's fault, so yes, it would have been unfortunate if he'd got a penalty, but I'm surprised that he didn't, basically. But apparently the Ferrari pit were not ready for Sainz. That's why he suddenly had to duck out of the pit lane and back onto the track. But he had Hamilton about half an inch behind him. So it could have been a nasty incident. It could have been a massive accident in the pit lane. We had an engine failure. That's worth noting. An engine failure by Gasly, wasn't it? Yeah, you don't normally see that. You used to see that all the time, and like 40 years ago, constantly engines blowing up. You could hardly see what was going on the track because of all the engine smoke, because of all the blown engines. And then at the end of the race, like 7 of the 26 cars would cross the line. You know? Terrible. But for the last sort of 20 years, I remember it was in the early noughties that suddenly the reliability, sort of led by Ferrari at the time, I think in the early noughties, the reliability was fantastic. Schumacher finished, I remember he finished like 20 races on the trot or something, and I remember thinking, wow, that's incredible, 20 races on, now that's nothing, 20 races on the trot. But back then, 20 years ago, that was amazing to do that many races on the trot without a mechanical failure. It's unbelievable. Yes, that's unfortunate for Gasly. And Ocon, he had issues. What were his issues? I can't remember. Oh yeah, he came into the pits and they weren't ready for him as well, I think. I seem to recall. But anyway, yeah, so he only finished 17th. Gasly 20th and last. Albon continuing Williams' misery, with Colapinto only finishing 14th after all the effort to get his car onto the grid. Albon, he retired, didn't he? He retired as well. So Gasly and Albon were the 2 retirements. Bottas finished last. As Bottas said after the race, yep, whatever, no worries, I'm not bothered. Yeah, Bottas was, after the race, was wearing a sweatshirt saying, what's next? ? Which I thought was really good. He's so chilled out, isn't he? You compare him to when he was at Mercedes, where he was hyper stressed because he couldn't beat Hamilton. He was incredibly stressed all the time. He goes to Sauber, and now he's Clint Eastwood. And probably a fun guy to hang out with. So Verstappen, all he needed was to finish ahead of Norris. And I'm so glad he wrapped up the championship. I really am, because otherwise, if there was a slim chance of Norris to win the championship, say Norris was, 57 points behind going into the last 2 races. No, 59 points behind. 59 points behind, and there would be 60 points available with the sprint and fastest laps. 59 points behind with 60 points available. The media would be going bonkers. Sky Sports would be going crazy, doing all sorts of pie charts and flow diagrams and everything, working out permutations of, working out how Verstappen can win the championship in Qatar. Basically, if Verstappen gets out of bed in the morning, if his alarm goes off in the morning, then he will be world champion. However, if somehow his alarm doesn't go off and Norris somehow manages to score 40 points in Qatar, then Norris will keep the championship alive for another, I'm banging on about that again, but we don't have to listen to any of that nonsense. We can just focus on the Constructors' Championship. So I am really glad that Verstappen sealed it. So what I call the silly season doesn't have to continue. So Zhou finished 13th and started 13th, but he was in the points at one point. So I thought that might be he might score something, but he didn't. Magnussen, he did a one-stopper, which was very impressive. Of course, he wasn't in the top 10 though, was he? Maybe if he'd done 2 stops, he would have been in the top 10. Perez had a great overtaking manoeuvre, fighting once again with Liam Lawson. It's terrible though, isn't it? Perez in a Red Bull, and he's fighting with an RB, the junior Red Bull. He's on the baby table fighting the junior Red Bull because he can't fight his Red Bull teammate. Oh dear, Perez. That makes it look even better. Such bad optics to see him fighting with Lawson. And normally he loses out. This time he didn't lose out. He did a fantastic manoeuvre on Lawson and Magnussen. 2 very, very difficult drivers to overtake because they're so aggressive. And Perez got past both of them. Very good manoeuvre. But, that was the only thing Perez did in the race. The rest of the race he was slow. Started 15th, finished 10th. Tsunoda, good position, finished by him, 9th. Hulkenberg, 8th. That's helped Haas get above Alpine in the Constructors' Championship, back ahead because they were in 6th before the last race, I think. RB scored a couple of points. So that's a ding-dong battle, and this is a ding-dong battle. Although you could argue it's just between McLaren and Ferrari, because Red Bull, they've only got one driver, so they're not really in with a shout. Piastri he had a 5-second penalty for not parking in the pits in exactly the right place or something. So it's strange. Norris had a lackluster Grand Prix. He's down in the dumps because the championship is. I think he was down in the dumps after what happened in Brazil. On pole position, he finishes 6th. Verstappen starts 17th and wins by more than 20 seconds. Yeah, I know he was lucky with the red flag, Verstappen, but I think he would have still won anyway, in my view. What other? Yeah, Hulkenberg, very good in 8th place. Alonso 11th. Yeah, well, Stroll 15th. Why is he still? Well, we know why he's still in the team, but come on, there are guys in that team, Aston Martin, who, their bonuses rely on drivers doing well, scoring points. And so for nepotism to be stopping these people in the team from earning money, that's terrible. Stroll's nepotism. It's just a massive embarrassment. Stroll needs to. A couple of years ago, he said he was going to give up Formula 1 and play tennis. Well, we'll go on then, because he's so grumpy and miserable all the time. You see him in the press conference. None of them want to be doing the press conference, beforehand, where they sit on the sofas and answer silly questions. None of them want to do that. But Stroll is particularly miserable all the time. And I think it's because he knows how bad it looks. He's only there because of Daddy, basically. It just doesn't make him look good. He should go to a different series completely, and he'll probably shine then because he won't have the same pressure. I think he would perform better in another team in Formula 1. I just don't think he should be in his daddy's team, basically. So in the championship, Hamilton's still in 7th place. Now, he's never finished as low as 7th in the championship. Now, he had a strong finish here, but unfortunately, he was still behind Russell, of course, and Sainz was 3rd, so he hasn't really made up much ground at all there. All he's done is gapped Perez even more so. As regards wins, If I write that down here as well, we've got Verstappen on 8, Norris 3, Leclerc 3, Piastri 2, Sainz 2, Russell 2, Hamilton 2, which is apparently the first time in the history of Formula One that as many as 7 drivers have won multiple Grand Prix. It's very neat and tidy. 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 8. We've had years where lots of drivers have won one race. I remember 1982, I think the first 7 or 8 races, I think it was the first 7 races, were each won by a separate driver. I think, if memory serves me right. But this is the first time that as many as 7 have won multiple races. Look at that, Perez. Not only bottom of the top 4 teams in 8th place, but also 0 wins. But he always looks very relaxed. I think he's just resigned to his fate, basically. Yeah, unfortunate that. Norris, he's runner-up. Well, he might not finish runner-up, of course. But if he does finish runner-up, that's still an important thing. People tend to remember the runners-up. Sorry, put the S in the wrong place. They remember the runners-up. They don't remember who came 3rd in a championship or 4th, but people tend to remember who came 2nd, especially if it was a close championship. And he did fight a lot with Verstappen this year, and there were wins that he should have had that he didn't. He would have won in Canada had it not been for incredible bad luck when the safety car came out. He would have won by miles in Canada. He should have won in Spain. He should have won in Austria. He should have won in Silverstone. Had lots of races where he should have won. So he will be remembered in this championship, most definitely. But there you go, that's Las Vegas. I've been to Las Vegas a number of times, so it's I can't believe that they've actually managed to fit a circuit in Vegas. It's incredible. I mean, that long straight, I've walked up and down that loads of times, going in and out of the hotel casinos, watching the Bellagio fountains. And I just don't understand how they've managed to fit a Grand Prix circuit with all those people there, all those tourists, and they've managed to put a circuit there, temporary, I know, but still, I think it's amazing. If you can do that, you can put a circuit anywhere, in the slap bang in the middle of London even, which I know they have thought of in the past. That's incredible. I think New York would be a good place. Those there'd be massive long straights there, wouldn't it? All those blocks, as they say in USA. You could just have like a big square F1 circuit, couldn't you? It'd be massive long straights. That would be good. They're probably already thinking of New York. Right, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so, or leave any comment. I reply to the comments, or like the video. I shouldn't lean on my table because I'm sort of rocking the camera when I do that. If you'd like to leave a tip, you can do on the thanks button below the video, and thank you very, very much to anyone that has. That really makes me feel very chuffed. You're not only watching the videos, but subscribing to the videos and giving tips as well. So that's incredible. Thank you very much. And I will see you on the very next video, whatever it may be about. Well, of course, next Saturday's video will be a non-Formula One video, because we're in the middle of F1 races. So when we have F1 races at the weekend, I do a non-F1 video, and then I do an F1 video if there are no races for a period, Right. Once again, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. This is quite a long video, isn't it? And I'll I'll see you next time. Goodbye.